Hey everyone, welcome back to Cyber Hacks. So today I have a really special guest. This is actually my first guest ever on this channel. So I want to welcome Kelly Shaw. I actually did a video not too long ago about CISA and some of the layoffs that's been happening in the federal agency in regards to Doge and, just kind of cracking down on all this. So I wanted to get firsthand experience and the words exactly from Kelly on what's the
Yeah.
situation and what's going on. Hey, Kelly, how are
Hello,
you?
how are you? Good, good.
Why don't you introduce yourself a little bit before we dive deep right into this whole cybersecurity?
Yeah. I'm Kelly. Former CISA employee up until the 14th. Everybody all heard about what we're calling the Valentine's Day Massacre because we just out of the blue just got notified via email that after going into work, that we were returned to office. So
Right.
I was in work, which is a 2.5 hour commute for me.
Mm,
Come and then check my email at home the next morning. So on Saturday morning, I learned that I was fired
wow.
and for performance issues. So
But
yeah,
do you
just totally out.
really feel that it was a performance issue? More,
Oh
probably not.
no, but no, I even pulled up my like last performance appraisals, and they're all like commendable service, high impact to the mission, all of that. So and with CISA CTMS, the cybersecurity service at DHS, at least up until now, um, if you performed and had a mission impact, you got it's essentially a bonus at the end of the year of some amount. And so I got those for my first 2 years. So with CTMS, the Cyber Talent Management System, you're a 3 year probationary employee
I,
despite
right,
despite having 10 plus years of federal service already.
right.
Yeah.
That was one thing that really threw me off was that the probation period was so long. Like, I know that's one thing, but the other side of to that question is, did you even think within those 3 years that you would have a problem?
Right. So I came over from the Office of Naval Intelligence. I applied at CISA, and they, gave me the offer, and in it said 3 years of probation in the letter. And I said, I don't care. What do I have to worry about?
Right.
I've always, in my entire career, I've always had great appraisals and nothing to worry about. I can knock this out. Well, it turns out that yeah, as soon as I came aboard, 2 years later, I'm actually 9 months shy of my 3 year
Right.
probation.
Yeah, I did read that.
Yeah, and in July it'll be 15 years with the federal government.
Now, when you got hired by CISA, were you fully remote at that time?
No, no. We were hybrid,
Okay.
and so if we needed to come in for like on-site meetings, not a problem. No one ever said anything about that. Um, for me, I had a remote position because I mean I would work at home a lot because most of my team was all over the United States.
Understood.
Uh,
Right.
so I had one person there at the office, and we
Okay.
would we would sit right beside each other in our little cubes and be on teams with people all in LA and Idaho and all these other
Right.
places, and we could actually hear each other through our headphones. It's like this makes no sense. Why are we doing this?
So
Because there's
even with going back into the office, you guys were not all, your team was not all sitting together anyway.
no, not
Mm,
at all. Not just yeah, they were still I was still doing the same exact thing
right.
at
Of
my
course.
office because everything's done on Teams there. Meetings are held because it's not like there's 1,000 conference rooms for us to go sit around the table. There's not. There's
Right.
high competition for conference rooms. So
So
um,
we want to dive a little deeper into the whole
yeah.
cybersecurity. First, I'm actually a little more intrigued with how did you start in cybersecurity? Were you always in cybersecurity or were you doing other things
Oh,
prior to that?
weirdly enough, I'm self-taught networking initially. I started an internet service provider business back in the 90s.
Wow.
So I got into cybersecurity from the ground floor. People trying to hack into my hardware. And back then, remember there were FTP
Yes.
uh, vulnerabilities that you could just get root privilege from FTP. And so,
Right.
but yeah, that got me started. I did
Okay.
that. I ran two ISPs, sold one of them, then just merged the other one, came back to federal work
Mm.
in 2010. And then I came aboard as an information assurance officer. So that's basically, cybersecurity 101 stuff.
Okay.
I got my CISSP, my GAC, GSLC, and Security Plus.
Since you
All,
mentioned
yeah,
certifications, did
yeah,
you feel that what certifications currently in 2025 do you feel that has enough relevance for hiring
yeah.
managers?
Um, it depends on what you're going to do. Um,
Hmm.
because I've I have nine certifications, and but that doesn't just because you have a certification doesn't mean like I think I watched your previous video. You've got to have hands on. You just
Right.
can't read the book, and that was great about the GAC classes because you just go to the SANS classes and you've got hands on. So,
Right.
but it's hard to say what role if you're going to be more in leadership. There's definite leadership roles, but the baseline of CISSP is probably something that tells me, okay, they understand the different realms within, cybersecurity, and they'll have that foundational understanding. Security Plus, it was easier, but it's still a good exam.
Right.
I was like you, I did the old, I took it and didn't have to take it again because it
It
didn't
was it was
expire at the time.
right
But I should take it again just to see
as
what's
a
different.
refresh. It's not cheap now.
Um,
It's $404.
I saw that. I saw that. But yeah, things like
What would you suggest for a
Mhm.
newly fresh, trying to get into the industry
Oh,
and as a blue teamer, more specific as a blue teamer? What would you look for as a hiring manager
um,
if you were to find someone that would
so I would
stand
look
out?
for that basic stuff.
Hmm.
Back then the CEH, Certified Ethical Hacker, had just come aboard, but I
Hmm.
found when I took it that it was here's a bunch of tools and here's how to use them.
Right.
I don't know how that's changed. This was a decade ago. So if they've gotten more like, why do you need this tool? Then I get it. But I learned things from the command line.
Mm,
I knew how to do all the command line things. So I kind of came into it with that understanding. So I would look for somebody that has pen testing,
okay.
if just the basics of something like the SANS, um, the G pin, the GAC,
Right.
GPEN,
Right.
or the advanced GPXN or
Did a lot of
XPN.
that get offered to you as an option when you were working for the government?
Back in
Because,
the day,
hmm.
and even up until now, until like our new administration, yes, that was something, especially when you're going to an organization that they're like my first job was with the weapons. I worked for the Navy, so we were worried about missiles and radars and stuff. And I was one of few that had that capability. So they paid, not even a
Wow.
question about it, because they knew how
Right.
important it was. Um, so yeah, I got a lot of that through them. But nowadays it's harder. But if you're on with organizations like CISA, I for my team, I would approve, what training do you want? Let's get you there.
Right.
Because I know how valuable it is to stay aboard with the latest info.
Right.
I mean, I come home and like I've got a whole bunch of Docker things running right now that I just taught myself this week. on different screens. But that's hands-on things. So anything you can do, those hack me things, that
Yes.
what is that,
The
try
Try
hack
Hack
me, or
Me, Hack the
yeah,
Box. Yeah, there's
all
a
of
few
those,
out there.
go for
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Because if you don't use it, you lose it.
Right.
I can talk the verbiage right now. I have the advanced pen testing and all of that, but it'll take it would if I said they put me at a keyboard now, I'm more into leadership things. I could do it, but it would take me a bit.
Was that
Uh
your role at CISA that you were more of a leadership role opposed to a technical?
yeah, I
Okay.
came aboard as so you can look it up on their website. This is
Hmm.
nothing secret, but I came aboard as a senior cybersecurity manager, which is sort of equivalent if you look at it to like a GS 15.
Right.
And so those people that come aboard, they're looked at for leadership type
How does
roles.
one obtain a GS 15? Is that a like an exam you have to take or?
No, so the GS, so that's the regular, there's a pay scale,
Hmm.
for the
Right.
GS employees. And so an engineer or a PhD would come in like at a GS 7 or a 9,
Okay.
and then they'd have to, work their way up through the ranks over the years to
So,
get up to like a 13 or a 14. And then, but once you get there, they're highly competitive
right.
spots,
So I do have
depending on what
a
you
few questions and
do.
regarding deeper dive into the whole CISA situation. Of course,
Uh-huh.
so when you were let go, right, and you were kind of just blindsided, you walked into the office and all your access was revoked, right? Pretty much. That's how it kind of played out.
Worse than that.
Oh,
Worse
worse
than
than
that.
that.
But yes.
So when you found out you were impacted, did you realize like other people were impacted in a such a large
Oh,
group, or was it just like you felt like
yeah.
you were singled out?
I I didn't. I knew it was coming. I was
How did you
walking the
know? Like
halls.
what was on the?
So walking the halls, it's not like they advertise it, but if you're watching the news, they
Hmm.
said, okay, probationary employees are going to get
Mm,
fired.
right.
And so you knew that people above us were putting together a list of probies.
Oh
And
wow.
I
But
again,
regardless of how well you were working and
oh yeah,
performing,
unrelated. I mean, it
unrelated.
has to be
Okay.
unrelated. And I said I don't have anything to worry about, so I wasn't super concerned.
Right.
And but yeah, we knew those lists were there, and I knew that immediately. I hopped on Reddit,
Wow.
Fed News or Fired Feds.
Yes.
And I can't remember which one, but yeah, they're like, oh, 130 people at CISA
Right.
um,
So
had this route.
I
Yeah.
don't know what your relationship currently with CISA now. What like if they were to call you to go back, would you even consider it?
Oh, yeah. The CISA is just, it's an awesome place.
Okay.
It's a great place to work. It's high paced, fast
Right.
paced.
I'm sure.
I mean, these are the smartest people I've ever met. I have a doctorate that I got last year, and I roll up to work, and these people blow me out of the water. They're just smart.
Right.
So couldn't be more, happy with the team that I had, and um, so yeah, if they did, they're talking about that now in the news, right?
Hmm.
Friday, the judges said, "Thou shalt bring people back."
There
But yeah,
Yeah, there was another article that was on the CISA's webpage on the news and events side. It said that you have to stop firing all these people. We won't be able to function. It was actually I'm
oh,
actually looking at it. It was on March 12th, and it says that you can't lay off anymore now. So I was curious as to, because I actually did a
oh,
video on it. Are they trying to call back people, or are they just stopping it from firing more people at those positions, especially the red team and the incident
right.
responders?
Well, yeah. So I mean, you saw the notification that came out saying it
Right.
wasn't red team people that were fired. It was more the contractor support,
Yes.
um, who were, they're smart people. These
Right.
people came from Cybercom and Fleet Cyber and NS,
Which I wanted to explain to some people that everyone seemed to have thought that this only affected the federal government, but
Right.
they they outsource these talents to private organizations. So it's affecting private organization,
Yeah,
private companies as well.
yeah, it does. For us, I wasn't there when they
Mm,
did this, of course, but the leadership started looking at, when our new director of DHS came aboard, the new secretary, just from there down, they were looking at ways to cut and save money. Um, I
Were they
wasn't a super
doing that
fan. Yeah.
prior to Doge, or I mean, it was after Doge,
Um,
obviously, right? Or
yeah, yeah, but the budget, really wasn't, where it needed to be.
hmm
Um, See, just by default, we were a new growing organization during the last Trump administration. That's when they set up, CISA and formally did all of that. So we were still in the grow phase
mm,
of getting people on board and getting them on teams. And so cutting these people now, which are all the probationary people who a lot of them are vetted CTMS employees. It's not That's just a little bit harder route to come in on because it's vetted a little bit more. Um, they're all new, so they're
right.
all subject to that. So,
Was
but if we,
everyone on the same 3-year probation?
yeah, I believe so. You have the 3-year probation coming as CTMS.
So if anyone was to actually have met the 3-year probation while this was happening, is was safe?
Now, I would think so. I don't
Wow.
know that because I when I look and think about who's still left there, um,
hmm
there's a lot of people that got hired after me that are still there that are
Interesting.
CTMS,
Right.
and which has me like, okay,
And what
I
is
went
CTMS again?
cyber talent management system.
Okay.
It's like the DHS's version of the GS scale is one way to look at it.
Right. Got it.
You can go to the OPM website and click on federal salaries, and the
hmm
GS scale shows up. You can see exactly what people get paid.
Right.
Um, so yeah, having that skill set leave is a problem.
Yeah.
And so my understanding is, you know, that there's RIF plans that were due either Friday or Monday at 1. So they're going to start following the formal RIF process, which is what they should have done to begin with,
Okay.
instead of trying to sneak around and illegally fire us.
Right.
I mean, we all understand a RIF's a RIF, and that's just a possible thing. But to get fired after so many years in the feds with, well, you weren't asking me that. You were just asking about the people that were
Yeah.
left. So yeah, it's going to be tough if we lose more people, and I'm sure there's going to be collapsing of
Can you
organizations
kind
and
of just
functions.
go over some of your day to day that as you're working, prior to all this, obviously,
Oh,
what your day looked like?
so for me, being so I mean, one way to look at it is I was the chief of this program, and you can look it up. It's not a secret. It's on the website for CISA called Cyber
hmm
a really great, great capability um, where the Cyber tool is installed at partners around the continental U.S. that are in critical infrastructure,
Mm,
and it's just a way for our threat hunt teams to be able to help and find the adversary in those networks.
got it.
And so I would come in, my particular expertise for this new function was just to keep people the project. I was the project slash technical lead for
Okay.
the team. So we had, contractors and labs and those kinds of things supporting us, as does any kind of government organization. And we were in the middle of looking at ways to save money on our on and roll out to even more partners. We are kind of in that growth phase still,
hmm
right? And so um and
Is
and things
that
were moving along. Yeah.
right? Is that something that's still happening, but more on a skeleton crew, or are they
Don't
just
know.
don't know?
I don't
Okay.
know. I don't know. I'm sure they're doing the best they can and all of that.
Right.
Like I
There
said,
wasn't
there's
even
smart
like
people there.
they
Yeah.
they didn't even give you a chance to do like like a knowledge transfer, right? I mean, everyone was
Uh-uh.
so abruptly just disappeared
Yeah.
one day. Okay.
Right, right. Yeah. In fact, I got the letter Friday night. I read it Saturday morning, and they said you're not allowed back on campus at the buildings at all either. Your cards
Wow.
have been deactivated. Your phone will get deactivated on the, such and such a time, and thank you for your service. And that was it.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. So, but the
That's
normal day was just coming in, doing, engineering, doing that kind of thing
right.
with people around the country and, data calls from leadership,
Right.
is always one of the things that we end up doing a lot, but we were just doing our thing. We got back to the return to office and just working
Right.
normal. No, there was no hint that we would be impacted because we're already such a small, team to begin with. Like surely they wouldn't cut us. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was indiscriminate, it seems. Just from my view, it just seems like it wasn't something that CISA leadership did. It was kind of, out of their hands. So,
Right.
but I don't know for
So
sure what
I did see your interview. I was just curious as to how they reached out to you, or did you reach out to them? I know how I did it. I reached out to you after
Yeah,
seeing that interview. What did they just look for
yeah.
ex CISA employees and wanted to kind of ask?
Well, I've been a loudmouth because um, I posted almost immediately on
Mm,
LinkedIn, "Hey, I'm looking for a new job,"
right.
and with a little note. And the next thing I know, like people were piled on. I think, like up till now, there's like 30,000 different unique visits just to my LinkedIn profile, which for me is a lot. That's
Yeah,
a lot
I
for
checked it
me.
out. No, I mean, I looked.
It's like normally it's like 10 people.
And have you
And-
gotten any positive response from that,
oh
like from
yeah,
hiring managers or other positions? Do you have
yeah.
anything
Yeah. Well, luckily I have gotten some interviews.
great?
I've gotten some rejections, as
Right.
normal. Um, but we have a group of us that are kind of, huddling together on LinkedIn
Hmm.
that are like passing job leads to each other
Right.
and just trying to keep our spirits up
So
as
what
we
type
look
of
for
position
jobs.
would you be looking for at this point in time?
I know. I wish I could get paid to just sit at home and hack, but
I if I
um,
was working my last job, that would have been possible. I was a hiring
yeah,
manager for a pen testing company, and that's all they did. I had about like ten people under
see,
me. Yeah.
that would be
And
so much fun to do that. But I'm also a threat intelligence person.
okay.
I came over from, like I said, the Navy intelligence side, and so, but for me, I kind of want to get back more technically involved, but at a leadership capability. So, it may end up just being at the same exact type of job,
Right.
but
I feel that
but
when people, have the CISSP, they, when hiring managers or, organizations look at that, they tend not to go backwards on hiring someone with that certification as a entry or mid-tier level tech
oh,
for cyber. In my opinion, I don't know, because they may feel like, oh, you're way too overqualified for this role,
yeah, and I don't know. I know how I did it, as a hiring manager as we're looking through to hire people. And as you know, organizations get thousands of resumes.
Right.
So with CTMS, um, the way it worked is you were already vetted. You go to USA Jobs, you apply,
Mm-hmm.
you go through a written test at a testing place, and then phone interview, Teams interview, and back and forth. So they put you in a pile. This
Right.
person has met these requirements. So then the hiring manager gets a stack of resumes in a PDF file. So there could be 300 resumes in a PDF file that we're just scooping through looking for keywords.
Right. Right.
And so, but I can tell you, it doesn't all come down to that. Oh, let me check. Do you have a CISSP
Okay.
for what we were hiring for? That's not it. It's can you talk the talk and walk the
Right.
walk? Like if I bring you on board, can you tell me instantly, you know, if you can't tell me what a buffer overflow is, then maybe we'll move on.
Right.
Or, um, we ask technical questions about like what would be your concern if you had a packet capture, inside of an operational technology network? What are the things you would look for on placement?
Yeah.
How would you place it to get optimal visibility onto that network?
The
Those kinds of questions that you would
Right.
expect.
So the one thing I actually remember when I interviewed with CISA some time ago, and all other government, maybe not all, but some government agencies, they always had a structured list of questions that they would ask, and they would
Mm,
ask the same for every candidate.
yes, they have to
They have
by
to.
law. By
Really?
law, yeah, it's well, maybe that's going to change now,
Right.
but it was to equal out to make sure everybody got the
Fairness.
same treatment and fairness.
Got it.
And which I kind of didn't like it because you couldn't go off on
Right.
like, what do you mean by that? Then how would you do this? I think you should at least be able to do that, but still ask those same questions.
Right.
But yeah, this way it makes it fair. You
Understood.
all have the
Yeah.
same baseline.
Yeah, because
But the
when
thing
I used
is,
to do that, when I was hiring for a private organization, I would pick what they would have on the resume and go at that, like, full steam ahead,
yeah,
asking more detailed questions about what they're familiar with.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. And for now, it that doesn't happen. But those kind of
Mm,
questions still are, how would you do it? What would be your plan to set up that visibility search question, and how would you go about it? And what would
right.
you do if people didn't want to help and all of that? Yep.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I mean that's great. Everything that you've said to us, and of course I've been following what's going on. As I know you have like other things lined up right now, as far as interviewing and trying to land the
One
next
more.
job.
Yeah.
Yeah. So are
No,
you
two more next
trying to
week.
get back into the government, or does it
I
matter at
know.
this point in time? Whatever
Uh,
whatever sticks, right?
yeah, it does, it plays a role because
Of course.
I'm at that point where I'm 15 years, 5 more years till I have my 20,
Mm-hmm.
which is like a retirement type thing. So
Right.
that would be ideal, but how can people trust the government anymore?
It's
It
tough.
certainly
Yeah.
comes up. It's a fair question to
Yes.
ask when you
Yes.
were fired without cause. I
Mm-hmm.
get it. That can happen in public companies and private companies, but that's not something that when you come aboard the government roles that you think about, because there's job security, but there's downsides to it as
Right.
well. If you're a contractor, you get the great benefits a lot of times, but you can lose that contract. So these things
Right. The
going
pros and
in,
cons of both.
but
Yes.
you don't expect to be fired after you've done a great job.
Right.
And
Understood.
that's
Would you,
that's a lot of us.
last question going forward, would you ever
Yeah.
question anyone ever telling you that you're on a 3 year probation, and would you accept that?
Oh no. What I would do, well, it may be one of those sticky points where you say, yeah, if you don't, then you're off the list. But as we've learned, rules don't can
Right.
always be
Always
pushed
change.
aside.
Exactly.
Uh, yeah, no matter what they say,
Mm-hmm.
obviously they can be pushed aside if based on what we've seen lately. But yeah, be concerned about those probationary rules. Maybe that's
Yes.
going to disappear. Maybe someone's going to say, "Hey, that shouldn't have been allowed to begin with."
Yeah.
And so yeah,
Okay.
definitely, definitely look at your benefits or your offer letter now and think about it based on what's
Right.
happened.
That's a great tip. Yes.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. That's a smart question.
Well,
Sure.
Kelly, thank you so much for being
Yeah,
here. I appreciate you, and obviously you have a lot of knowledge in this area of expertise in cybersecurity. I would love to definitely keep in touch with you, and just to see how
sure.
you're doing going forward. And
Yeah,
hopefully,
yeah,
I could bring you back on to see, maybe we'll hear some great news when you land your
yeah.
next gig.
That would be so cool. There are some that like I really want that job.
Right, right.
But yeah, yeah. Love to.
Okay.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Have a good one.
You too. Bye bye.